Robert has always been somebody that was clued into what was going on in the life of the city, especially in the arts, the musicians, the painters.
I'm Marlene Dick. I worked with Robert 25 years ago as a helped manage a restaurant and worked in this restaurant. Thanks for the wonderful memories and a lot of the teaching.
I was born in 1934, March, I break the spring, and in Astros, Kinourias, southeast of Athens, by the Aegean Sea, Cyprus, and Egypt, in that line. Growing up in a family with very limited resources, my father died when I was 4 years old. My poor mother, with 5 kids and one only girl, and I was lucky because my mother had a helper. She was the very first, so she could look after us. In my hometown, we had snow once or twice a year, and the very first person who saw snow was going and wake up everybody to every room. Wake up, snow, wake up, snow. Immediately everybody was up, get washed and be out playing snowballs. And you could see the whole city, neighborhood parties of that nature. All the kids were out playing because by the afternoon it was gone. So we didn't want to miss it. That was quite an experience. My high school in Astros is one of the oldest high schools in Greece. And after the liberation from the Turks after 4 centuries, it took place the second convention in Astros. And it was, for what I remember, 2 big decisions were taken in that convention. Number one, from the freedom fighters, Kolokotronis was the general, the military people transferred the power to a civilian government. First civilian government was formed. And there is a play about that, which later on, I was one of the stars in the play. So I had real good knowledge of that. That was the biggest decision. And the other one was the colors of the Greek flag were determined at that convention. The blue and white with the cross. And I see the flag and always my mind goes, guess what, in my hometown was determined the flag. And my high school had books in the library written in papyrus from Egypt, that old. And that was great. And then after I finished high school, I served in the Air Force for 3.5 years as a second lieutenant. I was getting paid, and it was great for me because I never saw money in my life. And suddenly I was getting the wages of a school teacher plus 30% bonuses for being in the Air Force. Because of my background, I took advantage of everything. I was responsible, for example, Christmas time to buy all the food for the base, 800 people. And I was responsible for the shopping, and I had to go out in Patra, the big city, and take 3 different sets of prices. And I had the doctor approving the dealers, and I bought turkeys for 800 people. And I learned how to handle money. And that was my goal. This is an opportunity for me, without using my own money to know how to handle money. And that grew up, and it stayed with me. It was 1963. My wife, now Anna, came to Greece for holidays, summertime. And my niece, who married my wife's brother, Yannis Perdikaris, asked me if I take Anna out because Agios Yannis was the center of culture there. Every weekend we had big parties. And being a small society there, it was difficult for somebody stranger to participate. So it was my responsibility to entertain her that summer. She was in Regina, which I didn't know where Regina was. She was here since 15 years old. And she was in a partnership with Theo Louis, George's father, at the Monterey coffee shop and the financial building. It was very encouraging because she was very good looking, and I had my friends, hey, she's very pretty. That encouraged me more. And we start talking like business. And I asked lots of questions about Regina because I didn't know where Regina was. And so, because the stage of discussions was a little bit serious, we start treating the whole thing as a business. My life and your life is coming up. We better make sure it's correct. So I asked her about the climate because I've heard it was very cold in Canada. Oh, she describes the climate here with the worst colors. The snow never melts. You don't see the sun for many days. But I was determined to leave Greece to prevent what's happening today. And that was a smart move on my behalf. A big party took place in Athens, the engagement party in Kato Patisia, and the wedding took place in Regina. When I arrived in Regina and I saw the beautiful trees, the green grass, the beautiful streets, I said, what you were talking about? This is like a suburb of Athens. He says, just wait till October comes. Meanwhile, I was lucky because that year was a mild winter and I adjusted beautifully. Meanwhile, I was anxious to work, but being new married, they didn't want me to work like a way till Yannis Papas, who was working the Georgia beer parlor, left and went to Marina Cafe, and I took his place. 4 hours bartending and 4 hours on the floor. I started off the top of the line in the business because the other Greek boys, servers, were jealous of me. You came yesterday and you got the top job, and we're here till we reached that stage we had to mop floors for 2 years. That made me feel good. On March 1964, we bought Era's Lunch, 32 seats. And the best memory of that transaction was meeting T.C. Douglas, the father of Medicare. And something I'll never forget was the invitation, personal invitation to me when he came for supper one night with his wife and his daughter, who, by the way, married my idol, Sutherland, the actor. We're interconnected very good, and Mr. Douglas said, Robert, when you come to Arva, you stay in our house. I'll never forget that phrase. So in 1968 was my first big expansion because Aaron's drugstore left and I took over his place. Mr. Grant Argue, a great family to meet, especially when you come from another country. We were just like family in a very short time. We had one key for the places. We trust him 100%, he trusts us 100%, something which I miss. When I start expanding from 32 seats became 85, and I came up to the street, but they didn't allow me to have windows because I got liquor license. And they didn't allow me to have windows. It was a sin to somebody walk in and see you drinking beer. A friend of mine who was looking after the building, Mr. McCarroll, was in New York and came back and we had lunch one noon hour together. And I asked him, how was your trip? Where did you go in New York? And he had a great experience from a restaurant. Meanwhile, being new restaurant, I was thinking to change the name, no lunch counter anymore, but restaurant, and liquor, of course, which was pretty tough to get. Number one, you had to be so many feet from a church, and I was pretty close to Blessed Sacrament. I made it for a few feet, so that was great for me. He says, I said, what was the name of the restaurant? He said so many good things. Copper Kettle. Oh, there you are, related to food. I'll name it Copper Kettle. That's how I came up with the name Copper Kettle. Norm Ratner was a very big land developer, a real estate developer in Regina. As a matter of fact, Norman View named it after his name, Northwest. And he owned lots of properties. And he was in partnership with that building with other people. And an attempt by all the tenants one time to buy the building failed. But one day I said to Norm, if you decide to sell the building, you talk to me. Anyway, once Friday noon hour, been a little bit busy, Norm walks in, he didn't see anything else, but he comes straight to me and says, Robert, I'm gonna sell you the building. How much, Norm? $500,000. Shake hands. Because I knew he was a man of his words. And then I start laughing. And he says, what are you laughing for? Because I have no money. Don't you worry, who's your lawyer? Avon Towers, Mr. Armstrong. Appointment, Monday morning we're gonna go to see them. And definitely that's what happened. I go there, we go together. Lawyers knew me and they knew that that was a big jump for me, so they start questioning me. Norm was determined. As soon as we left the office, he said, don't listen to them, you come with me. Go downstairs, Bank of Montreal, Mr. Ratner walks in, everybody on alert. Yes, Mr. Ratner, I want to see the manager immediately. Sit down in his office, manager's office, manager is coming. He says, listen, Robert needs $500,000. Okay? And I'll sign, of course. No problem, Mr. Ratner. And that was it. It was a deal. But at the same time, I felt that that was my life. And me and my wife, we put in 12 hours a day. We eliminate some stuff to save money and pay the payments, and we left it open, and it worked 100% right. It worked for Mr. Ratner because with the money he got from me by signing, bought another property for him. So he made money, and I made money. So winners, win, win, win. Next door to us was Camera Craft. It was the best camera shop in Regina because no chains were moving in at that time. And then they left, the chains start coming and they closed. and I put it for rent and I couldn't rent it. So I expanded the restaurant. The same thing. Next bay, after a few years, it became empty. It was Mac and Mac clothing store, one of the best clothing stores. Meanwhile, the change came, and they went with that too. I'm the only survivor of a big changes it happened. As a matter of fact, I have a clip of a newspaper which says, when the change start coming, swimming with the sharks. Sharks were the big chains. And I have an interesting story to say about that. Every Saturday, my friends were coming at the restaurant, and we play backgammon, we're talking, we're socializing. And one of the guys, a Greek boy, says, "Do you hear that?" "What?" "A place on Diurny and Albert is coming, and they're gonna open. And they're gonna sell a restaurant, and they're gonna sell hamburgers for 25 cents. And we all start laughing. Are they crazy? That was McDonald's, the first McDonald's in Regina. That shows you the different thinking at that time and what was happening. That's why that Sun article says swimming with the sharks, and I was a survivor. We came up with the idea of spinach and feta because at that time I started going to the pizza conventions in Las Vegas and took seminars about the cheeses. And feta cheese is the lowest in cholesterol from all cheeses. I was impressed, and I know spinach is good for the body. And we came up with the idea, spinach and feta, which we named it at that time, spinach and feta pizza, Mamma Mia. Then one of the city councilors, Fred Clipson, he called me because he was a great guy and we knew each other. He says, "Robert, can I add garlic, olives, and onions?" And I named it Fred Special because his name was Fred. So I thought it was a great combination of ingredients good for the body. And we take that and we became famous. And every year since that time, the people vote as a great pizza. We're well known across Canada for that pizza. The business were not too bad, but listen, being in the business in the restaurant, we went through the peaks and the valleys. And it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you didn't see a car or a human being walking on Scar Street. And I was staying open till 8 o'clock at night. And going to being in the restaurant, I had 2 beautiful young ladies as servers. "Robert is dead, can I go?" "Okay, you go." Then, "Robert, why we stay till 8 o'clock when it's not busy?" Well, I started thinking close early, 6 o'clock. But guess what? One night, 4 people walking, out of town people walking in the restaurant, they knew me. They called me, says, "Robert, what's wrong with this town? We went everywhere, we couldn't find a place to eat." Immediately I changed my plans. No closing. I'll stick till 8 o'clock, doesn't matter what. And I did that, and it worked for me because people appreciate what I did. In 2000, around 2000, I've heard that Irish pubs are very successful. And I started renovations for an Irish pub, and I put a newspaper ad for staff with the Irish background, and I'm looking for a name, how to name it. One of the first applications I received was from Niall O'Hanlon. The moment I read his resume, "You're hired." And I found the name, O'Hanlon, Irish name. Meanwhile, I was lucky because Niall is a very committed person. He worked all his life back home in Paris, and he knew the business very, very well. And he is part of the team which is make O'Hanlon's the place in Regina. My wife worked hard, I worked hard, and we started introducing the kids in the business. Pauline was 13 years old, and one day there's a convention in Saskatchewan hotel, and the whole restaurant was filled at once. So Pauline, not being a waitress, but watching long enough and see what's going on and being pretty smart, walks in and takes over a section of the restaurant all by herself. Grabs a pen, grabs a paper mat, designs the tables 1, 2, 3, 4, and starts taking order, give it to the kitchen. And my friend, Dr. Hodges, who was Dr. Hodges was teaching, a professor at the university, was watching that. He was there that night. And he gave her the nickname, the Little General, because he beat every girl on the floor in orders and delivering the bills. That was very impressive. I had a little cart, and Paul and Tracy, being twins, they had the cart in the Victoria Park. The purpose of me and my wife was to educate the kids and bring them up to be hard workers and learn how to cope with good and bad people. That was the objective. Call the kids and say, listen, you're gonna deal with some real nice people, but you're gonna deal with some bad people. And you have to use your judgment and avoid the bad people. And that was great. And that was one purpose. Second purpose was to know how the money comes from. And guess what? I started to encourage them. Dad, we got $150 today. Yesterday it was 120. Good for you, good for you. And so on. And then they thought all that money was our money. Now I have the opportunity to educate them. Okay, you make 150, eh? Okay, how many Cokes do you sell? So many cases. Would you, I had pre-planned, would you bring me the invoice of the Coca-Cola? Okay, you made so much, we pay so much, we make so much. They thought it was our money, all of it. So I succeeded in educating how the dollar comes from. Me and my wife's objective was to make him good workers like us, convey that to them. Success comes through the hard work. And definitely everybody was well educated. Anna Maria is a chartered accountant, Pauline is a lawyer, Tracy is a physiotherapist. But she concentrates in the breast cancer and devotes all the time now for that. And as a matter of fact, I was proud to see selected the association there as a Lady of the Year. Paul got his MBA, but I said, why to go to work for somebody else and don't work for yourself? So he manages O'Hanlon's and of course everything now. I was blessed to see the DNA repeat itself. In my own family, we were 5 boys and 1 girl. Now, with my grandchildren, it's 5 boys and that's great. And we got some pictures the other day, family pictures with all the kids. Great kids, smart kids. Every time they say something, they impress me. In every city, the downtown is very important. And I appreciate for what the city did. Like when I restored the front, they forgive me the taxes for so long to pay for that amount extra. I didn't have to pay, they did that. And I had, in my mind, I knew that someday the downtown is gonna be the place, and it became. The patio, again, it was the weather. The city is working very hard. They spend lots of money on 12th Avenue. And I felt that I was a partner in that, in being in business. And I wanted, the city contributed, but I want to contribute too. And that's where the idea of patio came. I said, the city spends so much money, they're gonna have entertainment, they're gonna have Thursday nights under the stars with a big screen, bringing the families down. My dream is to see families ordering a pizza and take it to the park and or come and sit in the patio and enjoy themselves and enjoy the pizza. And as a matter of fact, it happened in one of the Thursdays. A couple walks in with 3 kids, 5. And I was in front and says, a table for 5? No, we want to order a pizza to take to the park. That was my dream coming true. And they ordered, they were waiting for a few minutes and they got the pizza and they enjoyed themselves in the park. And it became the highlight of downtown. Okay, now knowing the weather and thanks to the Liquor License Commission, they relaxed the rules. We can have 100 seats Copperkill and 106 O'Hanlon's. And then a step further, we open our own liquor store. You can have supper, you can enjoy yourself, a bottle of wine and go home and do what you think. That's great. And that's where, because of the climate, I said, gee whiz. I was walking the back lane and I saw building a parkade there under the Radnor Plaza. And I saw the guys there were putting hot water in the entrance, so always it melts, it does stay there. And that's where I got the idea about the patio. I said, I'm gonna hit the whole cement, the whole front, 200 seats patio overlooking the park. I always felt that patio is very, very important because of its location. So I accommodate the heat. I put heat under the benches, so when you sit down, it's nice and comfortable. And I put heaters on the top. So that works. I got so many compliments. I stopped asking how much it's gonna cost. I just did it. And I feel great. And at night, I extend 10 canopies, 15 lights each one, 150 lights, and looks so alive and so well. And people walking on the street always look at the patio. That's a big satisfaction for me. And it's gonna be there forever.
Extend our thanks to everyone who came out to support us tonight on a very special occasion for myself, my parents, our family. I'd really like to thank Destiny for doing such a great job on the food, the decorations, and everything. She did a real great job. Wait staff and the kitchen staff who did a great job bringing it all together, and people who thought, it's not hard enough to run a successful small business. Let's throw marriage into the mix. So, half the marriages end, 2/3 of small businesses go out of business, so no, they took that 17% shot and ran with it. We're lucky. This is really a testament to all their hard work and faith, and you know, it's been a long road, a trying road at times, but there's a lot of great memories here as well.
If a downtown's not vibrant and happening, it doesn't say much for a city. And Robert's somebody that's always understood that and has really made such an investment of time and labor, money and love into making the Copper Kettle such an institution.
A huge thank you for being leaders in our community, in providing a place where we all feel welcome, where we can come anytime we want, and we know that we're going to be met with a smile and with very good food and lots of good visiting.